Hey everyone, Justin Holland here with the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. We've got two special guests today for this show, and I'm going to introduce them here in just a minute. We can't thank you enough for listening to the show, and we've got another week of great insight and some value that we want to bring a part of the insurance industry. Again, I'm Justin Holland. This is the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. I'm with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group, here located here out of San Antonio, Texas. Keep us in mind for all of your health insurance needs with Texas State Insurance Services. We've got Medicare open enrollment coming up right now, as well as a lot of disruption coming on the individual insurance market, the exchange, Obamacare, marketplace, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to be here to help you with that. The phone number to reach us for help on that is 210-880-5316, or visit us online at txstateinsurance.com. Also, we wanted to plug and remind you of Palmetto Life Group. We've been very busy with our Social Security and Medicare workshops. Palmetto Life Group does a lot of life insurance, long-term care planning. We help out with retirement. But what's really been helpful is the Social Security workshops, and I'm going to remind everybody to reach out to us for that. So the phone number to reach out for the Social Security website workshops that are done with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group is 210-880-5316. You can also visit palmettolifegroup.com, and you'll get some details regarding our weekly event that we have at the Stone Oak location office, or you can actually join us online. So if you can't make it to the office, just reach out to us, and we'll RSVP and send you a link to join us online. But we'd love for you to be there in person with us and visit the team and the staff there at our local North San Antonio office. We have 4 offices in San Antonio and 1 in South Texas, McAllen, servicing the Rio Grande Valley. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to dive into the show with our guests. And I'm really excited. You're in for a treat here because this week's show, we're going to talk about auto insurance. A lot of people out there probably listening have auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and we're also going to talk about umbrella policies. And I'm going to have some questions for these gentlemen, but they're going to basically dive in and give us some insight. You know, what's going on in the industry, what to look out for, what to expect moving forward. Because if you're like me, you've received an increase. It's not just the health insurance increases that we're having to deal with, guys. It's the auto, home, and even umbrella policies for that protection. So without further ado, I've got James Cardenas and John Hanson from My Insurance Group. They've been a great channel partner of us over the years, and we're real excited to have them on the show. And they're local here out of San Antonio, service all of Texas and surrounding areas. I'm going to need John and I'm going to need James to introduce yourselves, give us some background on the business and industry. Love to find out a little bit more about you guys, if you guys can let the audience know.
Awesome. Well, my name is James Cardenas. I'm one of the owners of My Insurance Group, and it's a pleasure to be here today. It's a pleasure to be talking to your listeners. I know John, my business partner, is going to chime in here in a minute, but just to let you guys know a little bit about what we do and who we are. My Insurance Group is a trusted local insurance broker in San Antonio, Texas. Now, what that means to you is that when it comes to homeowners insurance or auto insurance or business insurance, these are different specialties that we have. We have over 20 different carriers that we have relationships with in each one of these categories. And what that does ultimately for the customer is make sure that the customer is getting the best bang for their buck, they're getting the best deal, and they have a local insurance agent who is representing them and going to bat for them should any issues pop up. And we know it's insurance, so it's boring until it's not, right? And so insurance can be a complicated topic. And so you need a professional in your corner to make sure that you're getting the most for your money, right? And so I'll let John take it away and add on what I missed.
No, yeah, I mean, I think you stole all my thunder. So John Hanson, I'm one of the other owners of My Insurance Group. Thoroughly enjoy the opportunity to get on here, Justin. Thank you for inviting us. I think it's going to be kind of fun. We're going to try to make insurance not boring for the next hour. But
That can be hard to do.
yeah, well, I mean, like we do have a couple of funny scenarios on home and auto insurance over the last, James started this business, and I just kind of swooped in and started reaping some of the rewards he started back in 2010.
Around there, yep.
Yeah, and so and then I've partnered up with him in 2019, and we've kind of grown it substantially. So we got 20 employees in our office now, but we still want to keep that localized one-on-one feel with every client. And so every single person is important to us. We really, really want people to understand what's in their coverages, what's not in their coverages, so there's no surprises. And we can tailor fit stuff, but we need to know, every client needs to know that the reason why we have this coverage endorsed is because statistically this is most likely going to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a lot of other places just cut some coverages out that are super crucial on the home side and the auto side to save a couple of bucks. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit more moving in here.
We'll get some examples off of that. No, I can't thank y'all enough for joining me. And listen, we don't put our name or partner up with just anybody. We've been real excited. James, I think you and I first met back in 2019. It was actually right before COVID when we initially met.
Yep.
A lot has happened in y'all's part of the segment of the industry, as well as what we have been leading with on the health insurance side. And we want to make it engaging. We want to make it fun. It can get complicated when we're talking about insurance on the auto, the home, the umbrella policies, commercial, and then you have to add in what you need to know about health insurance on deductible. We were just talking about this in the lobby,
Right?
just deductibles and co-insurance, and it is absolutely exhausting. And if it can be exhausting for us, and we're in the business and do this every day, can you imagine how this can affect the end consumer out there, that homeowner, that car owner? That person that's trying to insure their business and make sure they don't have any exposure. So I try to make it fun, with we engage these clients, and really passionate about the business and the industry. I think that resonates with what we've built with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group. We're passionate. We really enjoy this business. We really enjoy the challenges. And whenever I walk into y'all's office, it's a great, welcoming environment there. You got a great team there, and y'all have always been courteous to the clients that we tee up for y'all in needing assistance on that insurance.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Justin, we are very proud of the fact that we've got over nearly 1,000 5-star Google reviews from local residents here in San Antonio and the surrounding areas. So our business is kind of getting to that point where it's like, we've got 1,000 reviews. Why aren't you here? It's like if we're doing a lot of things right for a lot of different people, and now we're hopefully turning that corner where it's like, look, we want to show you that we're great and you need to be here. You're missing out, right, on having a great local insurance agent. And we're going to get into what that entails in this conversation.
That's a great testament. 1,000 5-star, it's huge, and you're reminding me that I've got to go out there and remind my hundreds and hundreds. And, we probably got well over 1,000 clients, and remind them to get some reviews out there as well. But that's just one facet of the business. Hey, we live and die by that referral out there in our industry, and that's huge on us growing and scaling the business so we can obviously help our existing clients, but reach those clients that just don't know yet, and haven't engaged you.
The live and die thing. We make our reputation by the satisfaction of our client. You do, John does, I do. So the only way that we're going to continue in business and grow is to make sure that client is feeling appreciated and happy with their services. That's exactly what the local insurance agent brings.
Got this on some of my literature, and then we're going to dive into these topics, but I think it's so important. If you're not taking care of your valued clients or your valued employees, somebody else will. So you got to make sure that you're providing that value. It's one of the reasons why we try to add other facets. We're trying to bring value with this Mad Insurance Show, to complement our companies and just bring that awareness just a lot of people aren't talking about. So real excited to dive into some of our topics. And that segues into our first topic. We're going to talk about auto insurance. And you should, if you don't have auto insurance on your vehicle, you should have it. If you need it, let us know, and we'll be happy to help you out. But some of the discussion points that I wanted to bring up is, auto insurance premiums are climbing. I think everybody's noticing that. You'll see social media out there and some of these other agencies or pundits, so to speak, online will talk about these premium increases, supply chain and cost repair. I hit a deer for the first time, earlier this year in my vehicle, and that was quite the experience. I got firsthand, an experience, and we'll dive into that too. Of hey, you want to have original parts replaced on your vehicle? Do you have to pay more on that on a policy? That's one example. Increased frequency of severe weather in South Texas. I think we've had a reprieve lately. It was a pretty mild spring and summer, but when we get storms, man, we get them. And again, not only did I hit a deer early this year, and hit my auto vehicle and had to deal with that claim, the year before, our house in North San Antonio finally got hit by a hailstorm, and had to deal with that. And that was an eye opener. And I'll probably bring up that topic in the home, but real world examples, maybe some misconceptions, some predictions on what we can expect for auto insurance. I kind of want to just give y'all the microphone and let's dive into auto insurance and what we can expect, what we need to be concerned about, and what we can look for. Can you guys dive into auto?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2022 into 2022, 23, and 2024 were horrific for auto and home as far as rate increases. It just seemed like no insurance company in Texas, at least, was making any money for a little while. And
Yeah.
so they just started ratcheting those rate increases up. And some of it makes sense, right? A bumper in 2018 was probably a $600 bumper. Now it's got 20 different cameras and sensors, and it's now a $4,000 bumper, which I'm sure you just experienced.
I did. I had
Yeah.
plenty of sensors on my vehicle that got crushed.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
Yeah, so it's like the same deer. Now, like, you might not even made a claim
Oh, yeah.
on a $600 bumper. You know what I mean? It's like, but now it's like, oh, you better believe it. That just cost a lot of money to fix that, all those cameras, and you have to have certified technicians on some of this stuff. You have to have specialized equipment, so not every shop can work on certain vehicles now. And so that's where some of those rate increases on the autos coming from. Another big portion is that, man, it's been so litigious. I mean, you see, the fours, the fives, like call 4.
Yeah.
Like, so it's been very litigious over the last couple of years.
Yep.
And there's been a lot of huge settlements. And
You bring that up, I'll chime in. I'm seeing a lot of online ads about, hey, if you're in a car accident, it's not even an attorney, it seems like. It's like some type of service where, hey, you can get $80,000 from this accident. I was like, that can't be good for claims and everything else out there.
No,
as
because
well.
at the end of the day, like, so insurance is not it's not a nonprofit. I mean, they are all of these businesses are for profit, and the more they're pushing out in claims, the more they're going to charge. It's just a very simple concept, and it's the more checks they cut, the more checks they have to bring in to make some money. And I mean, I personally think that as a prediction moving forward, I feel like 2025, and I'm cautiously optimistic that there's going to be a little bit more stabilization. We've started to see over the last couple of months a somewhat flat and slight rate increase, which is so nice. It just because it would be nice to have and it also depends on the weather. It's like if we have a quiet, like we did have a quiet spring, thank goodness. And hopefully we'll have a quiet fall, and we might just see 2026 being pretty stable also. So,
Yep.
But
if you don't mind if I chime in, insurance companies, there's so many of them, right? And each one of them have their own model on how they want to be profitable, right? Some of them focus on different segments of clients, right? Some people love clients who are making less than $200,000 a year. Some insurance companies are focused on the people who are making much more than $200,000 a year. That's how they model their business. So I guess I say that to say the industry is always changing, and people who always feel like their rates seem to always be creeping up, right? So if you're driving around in your car right now, you know that why are my rates continuously going up on my auto insurance if I haven't had any claims? I've been a good driver, all of these things. But that's just the reality of the nature of the business, right?
Yeah.
And so you can choose to shop around every 3, 4, 5 years with a good insurance agent and just look over the fence and see what the market's doing, right? With other insurance companies and carriers. If you've been loyal to Allstate for the last 19 years, I love loyalty. We appreciate loyalty, but you also have to peek over the fence and see what are the other insurance companies doing in order to make sure that you're not just continuously facing rate increases and you can't do anything about it.
I've got a question for you. You talk about these segments. Hey, this carrier might focus on this demographic of consumer
Sure.
or client, and this carrier looks at this one. Over the years, as far as like the group benefits insurance business on the health side, I'm curious if y'all have engaged the same situation where, hey, it seems like some carriers are hot. They got their act together, and we're able to shift business over to them because first off, they're writing it, they're being aggressive on premiums. Maybe their service got better, and then some carriers will just they'll drop the ball. And it's nice because that can help us figure out very quickly or size up those carriers quickly for our consumer. But at the same time, we've seen carriers that were stinking up the joint, for a few years, and we fixed it. They listened to the brokers, they listened to the consumers. Hey, this is what we need, and they actually came back around. I won't name any names, on here on the podcast and radio show, but I will tell you, it's been. Sometimes we have challenges with some carriers and some of them step it up. Do you notice that some carriers, some years are good and some are bad? I mean, does that make sense, I guess?
100%. So immediately my head goes to a huge one, Progressive. So Progressive's model is they want to make a certain amount of profit.
Yeah.
And so they will slash pricing when they are above that benchmark for themselves. Okay. And so sometimes they look like an EKG. Where it's like they do, because it's just like you're like, wow, that was a huge rate decrease on that person's renewal, which great,
take it and run,
great for them, right? And then like that second that they don't make that profit, they ratchet those rates up a little.
Got
bit.
it.
And it's just so they're constantly ebbing and flowing. And some months it's like, man, like you're gonna like write a whole bunch of premium with Progressive, and some months you're like, oh, cool, they are very proud of their product at the moment,
Yeah,
and that's right. So that's who immediately comes to mind. And then a lot of the other things that you were talking about, where it's like the demographics, where some companies really, really care about credit, and it's just like they don't care. Like you could have $100,000, Mercedes, and as long as you have an 800 credit score, they're going to give you a great insurance premium. Some companies could care less about, not care less, but they're like, it's not a huge factor.
It's not as important.
Yeah, that $100,000 Mercedes, we're going to charge a lot of money because of that car.
Got it.
And they all care about accidents and tickets, though.
Okay.
Every single one of them. Right. Just so we're clear, if you have accidents and tickets, you are going to pay more on car insurance than somebody that doesn't.
And where the broker makes life easier for the customer is that there are ebbs and flows in all of these carriers. And if you didn't have a broker, you'd have to go shop individually each company and make that 15 to 45-minute phone call to shop around and find these deals for yourself, or a better spot for yourself. The simple fact is people don't have time for that.
Yeah.
They don't have time to call around every 6 months or every year when their policy is renewing. So that's the time value savings of a local insurance broker like My Insurance Group that immediately brings value over the years, just because we can shop you quickly, we can move you to a different place, we can do the dance that's required for a diligent customer to do every 3 to 5 years.
And you're able to size up those trends for those specific carriers to where you speed up that process for that client as well.
And to piggyback on that too, when people that don't really have the time to go out and shop, a lot of times there's 14 different coverages on an auto policy with varying degrees of coverage on each one. And so a lot of times when we talk to somebody that's a new client, they'll say, "Oh, I have full coverage." That's usually like it's a kind of a cringy thing in my ear whenever I hear that, because that can mean so many things. And so it's like, and so you ask them, what is what are your auto liability limits? And they're like, well, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, that we need to know, because they range hugely between the state minimum limit, which is $30,000 per person, $60,000 per accident, $25,000 in property damage.
Yeah.
Which doesn't get you very far in Texas anymore.
Yeah.
You know? But that's the state minimum that the law says that you have to have in Texas, and it can go all the way up to $1 million of combined single limit. You know, and so you say full coverage, and if you
What
don't really,
is that?
And if you're not savvy, you don't really know this, and then like you go right underneath that line. And I don't want to steal our thunder later on in the show, because I think we're going to talk a little bit more about uninsured, underinsured motorists. But there's so many different important coverages, and then there's some that are only 10, 20, 30 bucks that you can add on that just make your life way easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to add on to that, typically liability coverage can be acquired for a very cheap cost.
Yeah.
Right. So John was talking about $30,000. There's the minimum, per accident, right? I mean, if somebody loses an arm or an ankle in a car accident
nowadays, those ambulance rides are 30.
Yeah. No,
it's
you're
a lot
right.
more than 30. So anyways.
So I had a lady in the office where I'm at. She actually she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I need help on my auto insurance. I was in an accident, and they're not covering for a rental car. They're not covering this." I mean, she just gave me the bullet points of what I was like. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk to you, and we'll see what we can do to help. But I just assume, hey, everybody's got rental car, on that, and a lot of them don't. And if that vehicle, like I'm assuming it was for this young lady at the office, she uses that day in, day out, and you can get crippled very quickly if even if you're not a business owner, you could just be an employee and lose out, on you could jeopardize your job.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, if you can't get into work.
Well, and for something that's like usually on average, what, 20 to 50 bucks for a year to add.
Yeah, it's
and I mean, obviously you don't ever want to have to you don't want an at-fault accident, but God bless it, if you need it, man, that you're going to be happy that like you're not having to fit that $1,500 rental car bill when your car's in the shop.
And I think that's important, where we bring in those real life scenarios. Like I mean, me personally, when you can talk about, hey, this is what I did right, this is what I left out or did wrong on especially the auto insurance claims, because let's face it, there's going to be more auto claims more than likely than home claims. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm assuming that. Would that be the case?
As long as we don't get that many hailstorms, then yeah, probably.
Got it.
Right. Another thing as well is from talking about real world experiences. I've been in an accident and had to go through my particular insurance company during right around the end of COVID. You pay for $30 a day for 30 days of rental coverage. They were taking 45 days to get your vehicle back.
Oh yeah.
So luckily my insurance company honored the 45 days, but if you didn't have that coverage, and I've seen people have to Uber to work a lot because they didn't have that coverage, and then boom, they don't have they can't have a rental car.
I mean, Uber rides could be triple what you pay, just for a rental car off of that.
And you talked about your friend. There's a lady I know personally that her car was stolen, and it was when she had a Kia. And it was when the debacle.
Oh yeah,
with,
the
TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they ripped out something in her computer system, and so it just sat in the shop because they couldn't find the part. And so it sat in the shop for almost 90 days.
Wow.
The insurance company didn't want to total it out because it wasn't that expensive of a part, and but no shop could find it. And that person did not have the rental reimbursement. They Ubered for 90 days, and they finally totaled out the vehicle, and they got a new one. But yeah,
that stacks up on that cost there.
Oh, for sure.
Very cool. So that gives us some good talking points on the auto, and what to expect there. One thing I might want to dive into, and you know what? Let me make sure that I'm not missing anything on our notes here. Yeah, let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and dive into the liability limits, uninsured and underinsured motorists. Okay. Let's dive into that, and then we'll segue into the homeowners insurance. Let's dive into that. And whenever I do my quote, hey, when we look at it, hey, you got to make sure that you're protected for that individual that's not insured.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, here in the San Antonio and South Texas area, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of drivers out there that don't have auto insurance, and you could be left exposed.
It's a staggering percentage, actually.
Is it?
So the last time, and I haven't looked at this, so don't hold my feet to the fire, but the last time I looked at it, it was almost 25% of
Wow.
San Antonians that didn't have any form of auto insurance. And I mean, that could have changed. That was about a year and a half ago the last time I read that, but I was like, God.
Mm.
It's like, and so now it's like I need to endorse that on every single, or at least talk about it on
Yeah.
every single client.
Yeah, especially in the hit and run scenario, right? It's you get hit and run, you pull over, other guy takes off, right? And all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, well, is my insurance going to cover it? Which the answer is yes, right? Depending on if you have comp and collision and do you have uninsured motor. So I'm going to let John kind of dissect those.
So if you didn't have uninsured motors in that situation, but you had you have collision coverage, the collision coverage would cover that.
Okay.
It gets rated differently. It's a not at fault accident,
Subject to your deductible.
And so it's almost 100% of the time it's a higher deductible, and it stays on your record for 3 to 5 years. An uninsured, underinsured motorist claim is not nearly as rateable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so you're going to get a better rating. You're going to get a lower deductible. And if you do not have that collision coverage, let's say you have like I have a Jeep that is sitting in the garage, right? And I don't drive it very often, and it's not going to kill me if I total it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold common collision on there.
He's running liability only.
I'm running liability
Okay.
only, but my policy has uninsured, underinsured motorists. So if I keep it parked in the street and somebody nails it, I got coverage for it.
Got it.
You know,
This just popped in my head a minute ago, and the reason is because we work our auto insurance with you guys on a quote, and there's a monitoring system that can help lower our premiums. Basically, I guess it tracks your speed or how much you drive. Can we talk about that before we go into the homeowners insurance?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it I'll start and then John can chime in when he'd like. So what this is called is telematics, right? People
Okay.
like to call it pay as you play, pay as you go kind of deal. It's not exactly the same thing as pay as you go, but what telematics does is it allows the insurance company to collect data, right? And if they can make better decisions based off the data on your driving habits and your risk assessment of how risky they think you are, they're going to reward you based on if you do have driving habits or not, right?
Yeah.
And so if I am coming home at 5:30 or 6 o'clock to come have dinner with my family every night, I'm not leaving and driving around on the weekends, going to the bar or whatever it may be, staying out till 11 or 12 or 1 or 2 a.m. If I can provide that kind of fresh data to an insurance company, they're going to say that guy's a safe bet right there, or that girl's a safe bet right there, right? So if you're in a position to where you feel like you are a good driver, right? I go the speed limit. I'm not tailing people. I'm not slamming on my brakes because the data will show that based off the speedometers and things like that. If you're not doing a whole lot of late night driving, that's when you would want to ask your agent, can I get some telematics? Do I qualify, right?
Okay.
And that might look like an app, or that might look like something you plug into your vehicle for 30 days.
Or 90 days or 180 days. Every company's a tiny bit different. The one thing that is constant is if you are deemed a safer driver than others, you get a big discount.
That's what I was going to ask. I
Yeah.
mean, can the savings really be significant there?
So I drive. Everyone makes fun of me, but not always have I. But I drive very, very conservatively now, and I save 25%.
Wow.
And one of the things is you can't touch your phone with. So every company has a different thing, but with Travelers, it's a downloadable app on their phone, and if you touch your phone while you're driving, that's a mark against you.
Got it.
So you can't touch your phone. You can't brake hard. You can't accelerate too fast. And James is right. The whole nights thing. If you work nights, probably not a really If you're out driving around,
That's a higher risk, so to speak.
Yeah, and so if you're out driving around between like midnight and 6 a.m., they're going to ding you for that also.
Got it.
And that's just kind of how they just figured like nothing good happens after midnight.
I'm glad we're discussing that, and I don't think I even had that on our show notes. That popped in my head as far as that scenario or that service.
It is a great way to save some money
Right.
if you are a safe driver.
Got it.
I would also not recommend that. Like I wouldn't recommend it to my parents because my parents live in Pipe Creek, which if no one's familiar with the San Antonio area, it's from my dad's house to his office is without traffic a 50-minute drive.
Wow.
And so I'm not getting. You know what? You probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
He's there. 4 times a week, and
A light commuter
Yeah.
but 25%, if that can add up.
Right.
You
Right.
know, especially when we're battling increased premiums every 6 months or a year, depending on your policy.
Right. And to add on to that, on the flip side of that, we do have a lot of retirees that call in and say, James, my prices are going up, but I'm not making any more money. Right. And so they're looking for relief in some way. And that if we can provide that relief to them by letting them know about this telematics program,
Yeah.
they're already not driving a lot. Right. And we see immediate results and happy clients because we make that suggestion. So if there is people out there listening and they're in that situation, it's a great time to call
Very cool.
and find a local agent like that.
Yeah, and again, if this resonates with you on our listeners on some of these topics for auto insurance, there's a good chance you are driving and listening to us on the show.
Right.
Let us know, and we would love to help you take a look at options with that. With the auto insurance, we're going to segue into homeowners insurance. So there could be a lot of homeowners out there that are listening to the show or they see us on the podcast. And some of the bullet points that I put together, guys, on the show for the homeowners insurance: rising construction cost, replacement cost, the impact, we talked about this a little while ago, the impact of hail, wind, and flood zones. I think I'm almost positive flood is not covered in a lot of areas or most areas, and that needs to not be overlooked by some of the residents here in San Antonio and Central South Texas or Deep South Texas. The role of an independent broker, like my insurance group, our partner, is, and even Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group, is to really take a look at those scenarios, like visiting Cassidy in the office. We'll see where some exposure could be on some of those policies and could really be a gotcha, on the homeowner's policy. So let's give some advice to listeners regarding, rising construction cost, replacement cost, those storm scenarios. Would love some insight from both you and James and John on the homeowners insurance. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So the rising construction costs, it has been absolutely wild to watch. Some of these policies that we wrote in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and we wrote it. Replacement cost is how we write policies, right? That's always top line on a home policy is the replacement cost of the house. Let's call it $300,000. Literally going from 2019 to the end of 2020, that $300,000 replacement cost is legitimately now a $500,000
Wow.
replacement cost, and the insurance companies don't have enough time to catch up to increase that. And so that was just something that was a huge problem almost across the board, almost across the nation with insurance companies. They just couldn't catch up to, all the supply chain disruptions. And then legitimately it was almost 2 times more expensive to redo something. Like it's just some of the water claims in a house. An average water claim was a $25,000 water claim in 2018, 2019. And in 2020, 2021, 2022, that same water claim is now a $65,000, $70,000 water claim. You can't catch up fast enough. And that's some of what happened with just this crazy increase and this crazy spike, especially in Texas with the wind, hail, events also.
Real quick, we're going to take a quick break and dive into the rest of homeowners insurance, but we just want to make sure we do some identification of the show. You're listening to the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. We're real excited. Typically we discuss Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group, but we've got the My Insurance Group team here, and we're discussing auto, which we just discussed at the beginning of the show. We're taking a quick pause right now, and we're going to get back on track with homeowners insurance and dive into that. And then we're going to talk about umbrella policies and then wrap up the show with any funny stories or anything else we want to just yap about. But I wanted to make sure I identify the show. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. Let's get back to it with My Insurance Group regarding homeowners insurance.
Got it. Excellent. So I think where we left off, or a good segue, is you talked about flood insurance, right? And, just because you're not in a flood zone doesn't mean you don't need flood insurance, right? So we've had many situations where a homeowner was not in a flood zone, but faced flood opportunities or flood issues, right? And so we advise people, when you buy a new house, don't just assume that you're not in a flood zone. Ask around, ask the neighbors, right? To say, hey, look, have there ever been any flood issues here? Because maybe I need to be qualified for flood insurance. So that's just one kind of thing I just wanted to mention, that just because you're not in a flood zone doesn't mean you don't qualify for flood insurance, doesn't mean you shouldn't get it to have peace of mind. Maybe you already live in your house, and last time where we had a lot of rain come in, maybe things started to creep up near your home, and you said, you know what? Any water that comes in from outside of my house, whether it's pooling in my yard or my neighbor's pool breaks and it floods into my yard, all that is considered flood insurance. So it's not just rising water. You might have a hailstorm and the hail bunches up against your doorway. That's happened to so many people.
Yeah.
And when that melts and it comes inside the house, it's technically a flood.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So let's dive into this, because and this is myself selfishly thinking about my policy and where my home is at. And I want to say that we've probably got good insurance and a great policy, and maybe there's some room for improvement there. But I've got homes that are stacked up on a hill, from my backyard. And I've always thought, hey, sometimes we get some rain, and that rain will come in and deluge into our back fence, and it'll create basically a tidal wave, so to speak, in a portion of the fence. And I'm like, man, what if all that water were to come in through my back door? Sure. I mean, is that a flood situation? I'm assuming it is.
Sure is. Absolutely.
Okay.
And for as little as, was it $400 a year?
Very possible. Yeah. Especially, so we used to be able to give you an exact price through FEMA. But they redrew and rechanged
zones and all that.
A lot of their guidelines a couple of years ago. So now it's like we can definitely get you a private insurance, private flood policy for in between $500 to $1,000 for the year. Used to, I could literally be for $250,000 of coverage is $480. Mm-hmm. If you're in a flood zone that's not hazardous. Now it's kind of harder. You gotta we have to look at it, and we have to just kind of run it through and see what the pricing is coming back at.
No, I hear you.
But fun statistic: 30% of payouts on flood policies happen in non-hazardous flood zones. So 1/3, essentially, of all flood claims are in non-hazardous flood zones.
That's crazy.
And so whenever anybody asks me, "Do I need it?" I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you you don't need it." It's up to you, and I'll tell them that. And a lot of times people don't buy it, and odds are you're probably going to be safe.
Yeah.
But
hey, if you're a listener out there and you're like in my situation where you've got houses stacked up, up a hill on yours, have us quoted. Reach out to us, and we will be happy to at least obviously shop what you have in place. But I'm gonna get that quoted for me. Just to see what that looks like.
Well, yeah, and I mean the truth is like if I lived in Houston, I'd have a flood policy. I don't care where I'm living in Houston. You know what I mean? If I lived, right. if like my parents in Pipe Creek, they're not technically in a flood zone. My parents have a flood policy, because they're on a creek. It's like I don't care that you don't have to have it. you're going to buy this.
Yeah, you
You
live
know?
on a creek.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that creek can turn into a raging river. So to
Yes,
like we
yeah.
saw in-
If there's 10 inches of rain,
Yeah.
and which that's not that uncommon.
Well, I mean,
Right.
at the same time, we saw a horrible event in Kerrville. Biblical.
Definitely.
I mean, for the record books on rain, and just I remember waking up early that morning because it was raining in our house, North San Antonio. I was like, let me check the radar, see what's going on, and I just saw that red blob on that radar. I was like,
Right.
that can't be good, And you have those weather events, you just don't know, and it's not just your home that could flood. It's bobbing around, floating around in your car, and so you got these construction ways that get all this rain, and you've got these barriers that create I guess rivers.
The good
you
thing
think
with
about
the car, it is covered under comprehensive.
Okay.
So
So you're okay there.
or
Good.
all other accidents, whatever you want to call
Hey,
it. Yeah.
just if you're out there listening, let's take a look at flood insurance. It could be reasonable, and just complement your policy and that God forbid scenario that comes up.
And segueing into other things that can happen at the house, right? So we have wind and hail listed on something that we want to talk about on the show notes, and I think this is really important because it's going to happen. There's going to be another hailstorm within the next 365 days. The question is, what do I do as a homeowner, right? What options do I have? What am I looking for? And when is it time to call the insurance company, right? And so I'd love to just take a moment to talk to your listeners about, me, myself, I've been in that position where, man, my roof's getting a little bit older. Maybe I'm crossing my fingers and doing a little bit of a rain dance because I need a new roof and I need that hailstorm to hit my roof, right? That's ideal situation where you can get a new roof from an insurance carrier. But some people think that an insurance policy is maintenance, right? So if I've got a roof that's 15, 18 years old and I haven't had a hailstorm and I'm thinking, this thing's old, man, I need my insurance company to come replace this. That's not how insurance works. Just compare it to taking a tire down to Discount Tire, right? You don't take a bald tire down to Discount Tire and say, I bought the warranty, right? Give me a new one. Insurance is designed for sudden and accidental issues. So remember, it's not a maintenance policy. It is a sudden and accidental problem type of policy. So, hey, I'm with you. I'll be crossing my fingers too if you need a new roof and you're waiting for that hailstorm, baby. But at the end of the day,
it is so funny. So we're going to tell a little story.
Let's talk about it.
So
let's dive into a story.
I have a neighbor who I refuse to actually insure. They've asked me to insure them several times. Their roof is probably 35 years old.
Just getting warmed up.
Yeah, and
broken in.
And they keep saying there's next hailstorm, and they're with a huge, awesome company here in San Antonio, the Big U.
right?
With it ends
Yeah,
with an A.
I got it.
Yeah, and I would be surprised even if there was a bad hailstorm that came through and damaged their roof, I would be surprised if it's not actually on an actual cash value basis, which that means there is $0 that they're going to give her.
Wow.
Or him, and that's just it's always funny to me where they're literally deferring maintenance, and I know, like, you look at that thing, and you're like, there's got to be a leak somewhere.
Yeah.
Every time it rains, because that thing is
something
shot, and it's like deferring maintenance because they're hoping for a hailstorm. It does not work like that 9 times out of 10.
We, us personally, with our home, when we had the hailstorm last year, we had a policy. I had a policy in place that was aggressive on premium. Okay, it was a less expensive premium. However, I had more exposure, when the storm hits, the full replacement value. I mean, I had to pony up, let's just call it half, of that cost of that roof replacement. When you look at it, hey, I went so long, so many years. Hey, it was kind of a wash if you think about it. Fortunately, we had the means to cover that cost, and one thing I can tell you, if I've got consumers that are struggling with a $2,000 deductible or a $9,000 out-of-pocket maximum on their health insurance, when you got to pony up $10,000, $12,000, because these roofs are going to be $18,000 to $20,000 minimum, for some of these shingles, and to get a good reputable roof. I'm sure, could I have saved some money probably, and have another individual replace our roof? But no, we wanted to have it done right, and we'll spend a little bit more to do that. But that was my personal experience on saying, hey, you know what? Instead of paying for that full replacement value, we needed to be prepared, which we were, to come up with that difference. But a lot of individuals just don't have that extra cash in there to cover that. So that's important to have that full replacement.
Very important, but at the end of the day, being a responsible homeowner, which and I preface that with responsible.
Yeah.
Being a responsible homeowner, there should be some type of fund set aside. You know that you're going to have to get a new roof every 15 years here in San Antonio. You know that your HVAC's going to break in 10, 15 years in San Antonio.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
It's going to happen.
Like, I mean, we had some brutal summers. We had some cold winters. It's just, we're going to have to.
Some people have that AC unit that's still working 30 years later, that little engine that that was just built right.
I have my fingers crossed right now. Mine is 11 years old, and I had to have the AC guy come fix it twice this year. And I'm just like, do I have to do it? Right. And he's like, not yet. I'm like, oh, thank God.
But when it goes out, and homeowner, we've been there, we've had our AC go out, and if it's the summertime, man, it's brutal.
But it's worth every penny.
Absolutely.
Of that 10
How
grand.
fast can you get here? Can I pay extra to get you here? Like today,
Yes.
it's incredible how important that becomes.
I think the difference, and I love to hear that story for you. The difference between you and some others out there is that you were educated on what to expect, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many insurance agents out there that will do a disservice to their client by not telling them that that's in their policy.
And they don't find out until the time the time comes.
And perfect example is we'll have somebody written with full replacement cost, and they'll go leave us to save $300 for the year, or they'll leave us to save $500 for the year, and it ends up costing them half a roof.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey man, it would have only cost you, and you were grandfathered in with this 1% deductible. It would have only cost you $2,900, $3,500 to get a new roof, but because you wanted to save $300, and that other insurance agent
you did 1,000% increase on exposure,
right? Exactly.
You know
and
what I mean?
That other insurance agent didn't explain this to you. Now it does make sense to me. I went ahead and I moved to a company that has a 2% wind hail deductible, even though I know I'm going to probably pay for close to half my roof. I would rather save $1,500.
Yeah. You use that savings and then just be prepared that you'll have to cough that up, and man, we can go years. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'd be outside. I was like, yeah, we're probably going to get slammed. And then, no, it didn't happen until I think we've been in the house almost 8 years now. And finally, it hits.
But, if you're like you said, if you're saving $1,500 a year and you haven't gotten hit for 8 years, I mean, technically, you did make a win. It was a good decision.
No question.
It was a W.
We could have changed homes, and gotten in a newer home, and then I would have had that much more savings and relief there.
Most definitely.
Very cool. So that gives us an idea on. We talked about floods. We talked about hail and wind.
I'm ready for the next one, actually.
Dive right into it.
So the next one,
us.
and I'm going to reference John on this. This is story time, right? Where the things that are not covered, right? The common things that are overlooked that, people just say, hey, look, I got insurance, man. I'm covered for everything. And it's like, that's almost like a ick moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that is not how insurance works. I understand that the general customer might say, I paid $2,000 for my insurance this year. Whatever happens,
2G sounds better.
Yeah. I always said 2 Jesus. Like, I'm going to say some Jesus, right? But anyways, that was, that is the mentality, and it's a dangerous mentality for somebody who needs to be a good homeowner and understand what's inside the policy. So, like things that aren't covered, right? Is there something that off the top of your head that you can think?
HVAC. So I cannot tell you how many times I've been called for HVAC. It's like, hey, we're not a maintenance, we're not a repair service. I'm going to tell you right now that there is no coverage for your unit going out.
Right.
And a lot of people think that it is. But yeah, that would be like the first thing, especially down here in San Antonio, the first thing that comes in my mind is that is not covered. Now, there is ways it's covered. If you have a fire and your HVAC
Yeah.
burns, then they'll replace it. And then if you have a lightning strike and it destroys like the HVAC, and you have to get a new unit, then yes. But as far as just mechanical breakdown,
Just that maintenance
yeah,
portion.
I mean,
Makes sense.
it's hardly ever going to happen.
And then another topic is you've got foundation coverage, right? And that's a
Mhm.
very, very gray subject. But
It's a sticky coverage because it sounds like you're covering a foundation.
Yeah.
So just so we're clear, earth shifting and earth movement is never, ever covered on any standard policy
Period.
in the state of Texas, period. And so people will call us, but well, no, I got the foundation coverage. It's like, well, we try to explain to you if a pipe breaks and shifts your foundation, something occurred, right?
Yeah.
That was a sudden occurrence.
Something disrupted
Yeah.
the foundation
But if your foundation is just shifting because it's shifting
of where you live.
yeah, there is no coverage, and there is not a single home insurance company in Texas that will cover you for this.
yeah, right. Name any big box that builds houses and neighborhoods, right? If they don't push the dirt right together,
Yeah.
and those walls and layers of homes that you were talking about that are built up, if that dirt shifts, that is not on the insurance company. That is a pure earth movement.
Yeah, and the truth is I don't care how good the builder is, over a 30, 40, 50-year period, there's going to be some shifting movement.
It's going to happen.
And it is what it is. And
The earth is going to move,
Yeah.
everybody.
Most definitely. Yeah, and just to touch on what John was talking about, if a pipe is to burst in your foundation because they've got sewage pipes and water pipes, and it leaks down below the foundation, and water soaks the ground so much that it causes a foundation shift, then that's what that coverage
Got
is
it.
yeah, that's
for.
what that endorsement is for. And even then, I always shy away from saying it's going to be covered because the truth is most insurance companies will send an engineer, a structural engineer out to verify that happened or not. And I'm not a structural
I totally get it.
And at the end of the day, I'm also not a licensed claims adjuster either, so I can't really speak with authority on a lot of that. And so I'm like, I mean, definitely worth calling. But if somebody just calls me and says, hey, so I'm noticing cracking over my doors. I'm noticing, my brick veneers like cracked in half on my outside my bedroom.
It's probably a foundation issue. You're going to have to maintain that.
Yeah.
Got it. Very cool. So we've got we want to make sure you know who you're listening to. This is the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. My name's Justin Holland with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group. And I've got John Hanson. I got James Cardenas from My Insurance Group. And we've discussed auto insurance scenarios. We've discussed homeowners insurance. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute and talk about umbrella policies. And then we'll wrap up for the show. But again, if you've got questions regarding your auto and home policies, let us know. And we would love to hear from you. And I'll get you dialed in with the My Insurance Group team. Just reach out to us at 210-880-5316. And we'll get you dialed in with James or John or one of their trusted individuals. I got some great ladies over there that if it's anything like my organization on the health insurance, they make us look really good, behind the scenes. So some really good people there. And that number is 210-880-5316. If you're remembering us from the show and need help out with health insurance, again, call that number or visit us at Texas State Insurance. TXStateInsurance.com. TX is abbreviated there. So we've got a few minutes left, guys. And I told you this was going to go quick, and it certainly has. Let's dive into just a few minutes on umbrella policies. What is an umbrella policy? What is typical coverage? And maybe give us some examples or scenarios. Can we dive into that real quick?
So umbrella policies it's excess liability coverage after your liability limits are exhausted on your auto insurance or on your home insurance. And most companies will have a minimum that you have to hold on your auto insurance, and usually on the home insurance is $500,000.
Okay.
And so a lot of times these umbrella policies are fairly inexpensive because odds are pretty low that you're going to have to tap into this $1 million, $2 million, $5 million umbrella when you already have a $500,000 coverage on the home. And usually it's going to be, if they do the split limit, 250, 500, or something similar to that, where there's a lot of coverage on the liability on the auto before the excess kicks in, the umbrella kicks in.
Because we're limited on time and we're going to wrap up here, what is, should every consumer out there or client need to consider an umbrella policy? Should they at least get it quoted? Curious on that.
I would say no. If you don't have assets, you don't have a lot of money in Texas, and this is in Texas, they can't garnish wages. They can garnish bank accounts. They can take your assets. If you have a lot of assets, you have a lot of money in your bank, absolutely, 100% of the time, get an umbrella. I love it. I have an umbrella. I have a lot of peace of mind knowing I have the umbrella. Odds are I'm probably never going to use it, but I will pay that $300 a year all day, every day to know that I have an extra couple $1 million of coverage.
And it looks like some of the examples, having a teen driver accident, guest injuries, rental properties, are those kind of the scenarios on where that umbrella policy, makes sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I would say anybody with a pool, I would always yes, get an umbrella.
Got it.
If you host a lot of stuff at your house, get an umbrella. If you're kind of well known in the community, get an umbrella, because I promise you, if a lot of people know you, Thomas J. Henry's
somebody's going to find you. Yeah, no, that's right. A great point. So, anything you want to add, James? We're going to wrap up the show.
Sure. I just on the umbrella topic, I think when we're all trying to protect ourselves, but and I have a presentation on high value wealth and the risk to high value wealth. When you acquire a lot of items, right? Maybe you're not in the rat race so much anymore, but what you are trying to do is protect what you have so you don't go backwards, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say is that if you got a lot to lose, you want to make sure you're protecting those assets, because there's only one way to go sometimes when you've reached a certain level of success, and now you have to protect your success.
That's a great point.
And so does everybody qualify? No, but we want you to protect your success, and that's why you get an umbrella.
Very cool, guys. Hey, Justin Holland here. You're listening to the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. Cannot thank our guests enough. James Cardenas, John Hanson with My Insurance Group. Again, if you need some help regarding your auto, home, and umbrella policies, even commercial, and you're listening to the show, we'd love to help you out. Give us a call at 210-880-5316 or visit us online at txstateinsurance.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we're going to see you on next week's episode. Take care, everybody.